So how did they do this? And basically it's because, that's right. Oh yeah, Amazon is what? Oh, yes, Amazon's a monopoly. You can see this just ballooning. It's almost 3xing in 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's crazy. Who does the platform take advantage of when they become a monopoly? As we've said a bajillion times on this show, they take advantage of producers, not consumers. Amazon. So check this report out from this really interesting institute I did not really know much about prior to this report being published. The report is called Amazon's Toll Road, published by the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Actually, really interesting group here. If you look at their What We Do page, they have a vision of thriving, diverse, equitable communities. To reach this vision, we build local power to fight corporate control. They've been around for like 40 plus years. We recognize the biggest challenges in the U.S. today are corporate control and diminishing community power, which undermines the strength of our democracy and local economies. Really interesting. And part of that is promoting locally owned business and to fight the unchecked power of corporate giants that could change corporate giants to monopolies, Amazon being one of the biggest and baddest. As we've just covered the report that came out from Reuters about what Amazon's doing in India, similar kind of theme around what they're doing between 1P and 3P and playing a lot of games around that. So this I thought was pretty eye-opening. Amazon's hidden profit center, kind of dispelling the notion that AWS actually drives the most profits for Amazon overall. Right, you see here AWS 13.5 billion. And then you look at Amazon lumps it all together, direct, retail, prime, and marketplace, 9 billion. What the point they're making in this report is that you have to understand that if you were to break out direct, retail, prime, and marketplace, marketplace is driving relatively way more profit than AWS. Their estimate is $24 billion of profit. And what they're saying is direct retail, which is 1P, right? So Amazon Basics, all the 1P white label products that Amazon is creating and Prime are losing money, right? So in Applico and platform parlance, what we would say is direct retail, 1P, Amazon Basics, and Prime are what we would call a linear hook. The kind of user retention and user acquisition, both product subsidy and monetary subsidy to keep consumers coming back again and again and again. So you're getting rock bottom prices on those really high volume kind of mainstay staple products, right? That's what Amazon is, either 1P, they're buying and then reselling off a balance sheet, or they're just creating their own version of it with Amazon Basics. So they're saying, hey, between those products and Prime, Amazon's losing, by their estimate, $15 billion annually, which means that if they're losing $15 billion on that and they get $24 billion on profit from the fees and services that they're selling to third-party sellers, which is what they've categorized as marketplace profit. So 24 minus 15 equals 9, right? So they're saying Amazon's driving much more profit from marketplace than they are AWS. But the 1P, the linear hook that Amazon's doing and losing money on, is making it appear that AWS is more profitable, but it's really not. So that's one really interesting insight here. The other part of that, obviously, is that marketplace and the fees from that are skyrocketing. So look at this chart. From 2014, call it 10 billion, 12 billion in total kind of 3P marketplace revenue, to now in 2021, a little shy, called 120 billion, a little shy of 125 billion in revenue. That's their estimate for 2021. Obviously, we're still in 2021. But you can see then they break this down between referral fee, fulfilled by Amazon fees, seller advertising fees, and other. Other is very small, it's de minimis. Seller advertising fees now is over 10 billion in revenue. This is ads. We've covered how Amazon's just ballooning its ad business and has now become a top 3 digital advertising player behind the duopoly of Google and Facebook in very short order, just a few years' time. So that's the third biggest revenue category. Second biggest revenue category are referral fees. So this is basically, just think of it as the take rate on Amazon. So hey, I sell a product for $100. Amazon's referral fee maybe now is somewhere around like 15%. That fee has gone up. Those fees, many of them were sub 10%. Now many of them are over 10%, right? That's the take rate basically, right? That's kind of qualified as referral fee. So then it looks like that's coming in at maybe around $45 billion in revenue projected for 2021 on take rate revenue against 3P. And then the biggest bucket by dollars is FBA fees. These are fulfillment fees, right? So this is, I'm storing my stuff in an Amazon warehouse, and then Amazon is fulfilling that on my behalf and charging me a fee, hence the name Fulfilled by Amazon. So that's basically the breakdown of those major buckets, but you can see this just ballooning from 2018 being, call it 45, 47 billion in revenue to now 2021 being like 120 billion in revenue, right? It's almost 3xing in 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's crazy. Obviously, COVID being a huge accelerant, 2019, this clocking in at maybe around 60 billion to 2020, jumping to call it 85, 90 billion, right? So a massive, almost 50% growth there. And then similarly, a massive amount of growth from 2020 to 2021 from call it 90 billion to now maybe 120 billion. So maybe, 30, 33% growth. Massive growth considering the numbers we're talking about are not small. So how did they do this? And basically it's because, that's right. Oh yeah, Amazon is what? Oh yes, Amazon's a monopoly. Doesn't Amazon's ability to hike those fees so steeply suggest that Amazon enjoys market power over those sellers, i.e. you are a monopoly? Bezos replied, I think what you're seeing there when you see these fees going up, what's really happening is that sellers are choosing to use more of our services that we make available. Yeah, because if they don't, their whole business will collapse because you are their primary and majority channel of what? Revenue. That makes you a what? Yes, a monopoly. As we've talked about multiple times on this show, the reason why Amazon is a monopoly is because they account for by our estimates, over 60 to 70% of all of the third-party revenue in the United States. What does that mean? So if you are a third-party seller, you can now sell on Amazon, on Walmart. Now there's a bunch of vertical specific marketplaces, right? You add that all up, all those third-party seller GMV volumes. Amazon is still going to be at least 60, possibly over 70% of those GMV volumes. Which means if you are a third-party seller, right, the lion's share of GMV, the lion's share of volume going to you, the third-party seller, is coming from Amazon. That makes Amazon a clear monopoly when it comes to marketplace. For every $100 a seller earns in sales, Amazon's taking $34. So 34%, that's up from $19 in 2014. When you add in all those things, right? Referral fees, fulfilled by Amazon fees, ads weren't really a thing at all back in 2014. But now, right, they're basically taking 34 cents on every dollar that flows through to a third-party seller. From 2014 to 2020 to 2021, you can see direct retail sales versus prime fees versus marketplace and AWS fees and how those are becoming a larger and larger part of the pie. In 2014, this is marketplace and AWS was 19% of revenue, as now in 2021 projected to be 41%. Really, the rub in all this is how does this group really delineate between basically how much money they're losing on 1P and Prime versus what they're making on third party? How did they get the $15 billion in losses, right? They kind of touch on that. Amazon's lack of disclosure makes it impossible to know exactly how profitable marketplace is, but one can sketch a rough idea. Analysts believe that Amazon's margins on third-party seller services are roughly 20%. That works out to $16 billion in profits. If we assume that Amazon's margin on seller advertising is 50%, that adds another $8 billion in profits. Combined, this would mean that Amazon pulled down $24 billion for marketplace. And then from there, they're saying, hey, we think Amazon's losing money on direct retail and Prime, but they're really kind of backing into that number from calculating the profit on marketplace, right? So it's hard to know exactly. You're never really going to know exactly because Amazon doesn't break it out. The logic makes sense at a high level. Probably a good topic to probe Amazon on if you are a government body, either a regulator or a legislator. I think conceptually they're spot on in their thinking. And again, the numbers might be a little bit off here or there, but conceptually I think this makes a lot of sense and has really done a great job kind of being very illustrative on, again, who does the platform take advantage of when they become a monopoly? As we've said a bajillion times on this show, they take advantage of producers, not consumers. At the end of this report, they do try to then kind of end around to the whole thing that Amazon is raising consumer prices. Why bother? You don't even need to bother. This group, what is this group? The Institute for Local Self-Reliance. You did a great job. Just honestly cut off that whole part of the bottom bit there on the report. You don't need to go there. Your argument really does get kind of, you get to poke some holes in that when you say, yeah, Amazon's raising costs for the consumer, but they're losing $9 billion by selling all this 1P and Amazon basic stuff at cost or at a loss, right? Like those two things counteract with each other. So why even get there? You don't need to. All you need to say is Amazon takes advantage of third-party sellers. Check. Sellers are customers of Amazon. Check. Amazon controls over 60, possibly 70% of GMV for all third-party sellers. Check. Amazon equals monopoly. Therefore, we should take action. It's 2 or 3 points. That's all you got to do. Don't even get into the consumer stuff. Anyway, it's a great report. Suggest you go dig into it. Another step in the battle to fight back and win against big tech. And a really prominent piece of research to move that fight along. Hi, I'm Alex. Thanks for watching the show. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, but even better, make sure to follow us on Odyssey, follow us on Rumble, and text us 203-646-5159. Text the word Monopoly. You'll be subscribed. You'll get updates about when we're going live, our latest videos, and we'll send you even a little goodie bag. And in the event that we all get banned from big tech, we'll still be connected.